Welcome to the Word for 2021, a daily devotional where we go through God's Word chapter by chapter. Today we're in 2 Samuel chapter 8. If these devotionals are an encouragement to you, may I ask you to like them and then also hit that share button so that others might see these devotionals too. Well, again, today we're in 2 Samuel chapter 8. Now this chapter is a wonderful chapter because it lists and denotes the victories of David. God has been with David. God has been giving him victory everywhere that he went. And with each victory, David has been taking those things that have been amassed from those victories and he's dedicating them to the Lord. Now, David was not allowed to build the temple, but he was going to give to it. He wanted to be a part of honoring God by building that temple. He couldn't do it personally, but he could give towards it. God had been blessing David, and so David wanted to bless the Lord and the people of Israel. It says in verse 15 that David reigned over all Israel, and David administered justice and righteousness for all of his people. As you're reading this chapter and you're looking over the list of victories, you might be tempted to read over them quickly and to think that, well, they came in rapid succession. But actually, it took many years for these battles to take place. There was a lot of planning that went into them and the execution of them. With each victory that God gave David, the nation of Israel expanded. It expanded north as the Philistines were defeated. Israel was expanded to the east as the Moabites were defeated. Israel expanded to the north as Aram was defeated, and Israel expanded to the south as God gave victory to David over the Edomites. The kingdom boundaries of Israel literally expanded tenfold under David. As we read about the victories, David, his respect as a military leader continued to be highlighted. But David knew that it was not his skill or his strategies that made him successful. 2 different times in this chapter we read that the Lord was the one that gave David victory. Because that phrase is repeated 2 different times, we need to take note of it. David's victories came from the Lord. His power came from the Lord. His ability came from the Lord. So too, we need to understand that God is our source, that God is our enabler, that He is our promoter, and so therefore God is the one that is due all the credit for everything in our life. This is what the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 10. By the grace of God, I am what I am, and His grace toward me was not in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the grace of God that is in me. We need to understand and remember that all that we have, all that we are, and all that we will be, it's because of the grace of God, and it's His hand that's been upon our lives. Going back to our chapter today, with each victory, David dedicated the spoils to the Lord. Now the spoils could have gone into David's pocket, but that's not what he wanted to do with them. He dedicated them to the Lord and to the benefit of His people. Again, David knew that God was the one that gave him success. God was the one that gave him increase and all the blessings that he had. So he committed to honoring God with all that he had. As we read this chapter, we too should come to grips with the understanding that everything that we are and everything that we have, it's a gift from the Lord. Our ability to even produce wealth is a gift from Him. Our talents, our abilities, every opportunity, it's because of the grace of God. Therefore, we need to honor God with our wealth, with our increase, with our lips, with our actions, and with our attitudes. Like David, we need to have a grateful heart. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.